Good evening, everyone, and a Freilich and Chanukah. Welcome back to the weekly shir of Inyanigul Moshiach on the internet, the largest shir of Inyanigul Moshiach that is given in the English language over the internet, and it's all thanks to you and your continuous participation and your continuous encouragement and your continuous excitement that keeps the shir going. So again, as we celebrate Chanukah, which right away reminds us of the Chanukas HaBeis HaMikdash, the Chanukas HaMishkan, the Chanukas HaMikdash. It obviously is ringing in our ears and in our hearts the desire for the Chanukah of the Beis HaMikdash HaShlishi, and it's something that we are thinking about and we are discussing with our friends and family the best way to bring about the Chanukas Beis HaMikdash, and the best way to do that is by learning the Inyanigul Moshiach in depth, and therefore your participation in this year, especially on the Yom Tov of Chanukah, brings the awareness and the excitement of Moshiach to a whole new level. This week's shir is sponsored L'Schus Rabbi Yisrael Levi HaKoyin Ben Sora Miriam L'Refuah Shleima Ukroiva Tekev Umiyad Mamish. The miracle of the Yom Tov of Chanukah is connected with Shevet Levi, because we know the Chashmonoim, they were Kehanim from Shevet Levi, and that's one of the Gematrias and Rosh Tevis of Maccabee. Everyone knows it's Mi Chamoicha Beilam Hashem, but there's another Rosh Tevis which is Matisyo Koyin ben Yochanan, or Matisyo ben Yochanan HaKoyin. The point is that the Chashmonoim were from the Shevet Levi, and therefore tonight we are going to be discussing the role and the changes that are going to happen to the Shevet Levi in the times of Moshiach in the third Beis HaMikdash, when we dedicate the third Beis HaMikdash, may it be right away. The first thing we have to clarify is a very famous pirush of the Arizal. The Arizal writes in his Svarim, written by his Talmidim and quoted by many Mekubalim, even the Alter Rebbe in Tanya, Perek Nun, quotes this pirush of the Arizal on the pasuk in Yecheskel, where it discusses V'hakoyinim HaLevi'im B'nei about the Koyinim, the Levi'im. So the Alter Rebbe brings down in Perek Nun, and he brings down the Arizal that says Sha'koyanim shel achshav, Sha'leviim shel achshav yukehanim la'osid, that the Levi'im of today will be the kehanim of the times of Moshiach. So seemingly it seems from here that when Moshiach comes, there will be no regular Levi'im, because the kehanim, it's hard to say that they will go down to the Darga of Levi, because you have Mailim B'Kodesh V'yein Moiridin, and then you also have the Levi'im, which are going to go up to the level of Kehanim. So will there be no Levi'im when Mashiach comes? So Rabbi Weinberg Zol Gesund Sein, who is known for his shiurim that he gives in Sefer Atanya on the radio, and was later recorded and translated to many languages in the classical set on Tanya, Shiurim b'Sefer Atanya, lessons in Sefer Atanya. So he asked this question to the Rebbe. He said, how am I supposed to explain this to the people which are going to be listening to my radio show? And the Rebbe explained as follows, and it's brought down in the explanations in the lessons in Tanya, that the Levi'im of this generation, for example, being that Moshiach is coming right now, so if any one of you watching this shir is a Levi, I have good and bad news for you. The great news is that we're going to be meriting to see Moshiach right away. The not such exciting news is that you, because I'm not a Levi, are going to stay in the level of Levi'im. The Levi'im that are going to be zoichet to the Hizgalus of Moshiach are going to stay the level of Levi'im. So what does it mean that the Levi'im are going to be born Kaihanim, or they're going to be turned into Kaihanim when Moshiach comes. What does that mean? That means like this, that there are certain neshamas which are neshamas of Levi'im. These neshamas of Levi'im are, which naturally are noited towards Gvura, like it says, V'avad ha-Levi hu, that means Levi is connected with Avodah, with Gvura, are going to be born into bodies of Kaihanim when Mashiach comes. Kohen is Isha Chesed. And yet when Mashiach comes, the neshamas of Levi'im, certain neshamas of Levi'im, are going to be born into bodies of Kaihanim when Mashiach comes. But so in short, the future Kaihanim in the times of Mashiach will have in them neshamas of Levi'im. But the Levi'im of today are going to remain Levi'im. The Levi'im which are living today and are going to greet Mashiach today are going to remain Levi'im. So what change will happen? The change that will happen will actually be in the Gashmias that the Levi'im will get. We know that historically the Levi'im were living from the goodness and the matanis of the people. Ein lahem nachla b'Klal Yisrael. The Levi'im did not have a portion with Klal Yisrael. They served the Eibishter, and they got the matanis to the Levi'im, the Meiser. They got the cities that were given to the Levi'im, like the Ari Miklat, but they did not have their own chelik. They didn't have their own portion. However, according to many opinions, that is going to change when Mashiach comes. The Gemara says in Baba Basra, very fascinating Gemara, which speaks about the rules of inheritance. And the Gemara there says that when Mashiach comes, Eretz Yisrael is going to be divided into an extra portion. Until now, all the Shvatim got their portion. And when Mashiach comes, it's going to be divided into an extra portion. Who is going to get that extra portion? So one opinion says that Mashiach is going to get the extra portion, but the other opinion, and the more accepted opinion for the matter, is that Shevet Levi is going to get that portion. The Levi'im are going to finally get a chelek in Eretz Yisrael. The Levi'im, which during the time of Golus and during the time of the first, second Beis HaMikdash, they did not have a chelek in Eretz Yisrael. The Gemara says that when Mashiach comes, they will have a chelek in Olam Haba. They will have a chelek in Eretz Yisrael in the times of the Geula. And that brings us to two questions. The first question is a halachic question, a sort of technical question, not chas v'sholem, that halach is technical, but a more gashmistic question, halachic issue. And then there's a more philosophical issue. The halachic question is, if the Torah says that Levi'im do not have a chelek in Eretz Yisrael, so how will that change when Mashiach comes? We know that Torah does not change. It's a very, very important rule. There are those that think that the Torah can change, especially in the times of Mashiach. Some of the Mefarshim write that it's only normal that Torah should change when Mashiach comes. And they bring an example of a child that when he's young, they eat soft foods, and when they get older, they can eat harder foods. So they say Yidden before Mashiach, they're like children, so they eat like softer foods. Is one type of mitzvahs for them. And these halachas can change when Mashiach comes. They'll be able to eat the harder foods. But the Rebbe teaches us in the famous Sikha of mitzvahs betelis lasud lavai, the Simchas Torah Tovshin Beis. The Rebbe spoke about it and he said that if we look at mitzvahs and Torah as Chachmasei Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Ritzonei Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem's wisdom, Hashem's will, and Hu v'Chachmasei Echad, He and His wisdom are one, Hu Ritzonei Echad, the Eibishter and His will is one. The Eibishter doesn't change, His Chachma and His Ratzon doesn't change, His will and His wisdom do not change. And therefore it's impossible that Torah can change. As a matter of fact, the Rambam writes that it's a mitzvah, we know, it's la'ad la'ol me'elamim, that mitzvahs are everlasting. So if the Torah tells us that Levi'im do not have a portion in Eretz Yisrael, how will that change when Moshiach comes? So there are many different explanations given by the different Mefarshim, the commentaries. But the Rebbe in the Sichos Chelik Lamed Ches, Parshas Pinchas, which speaks about the inheritance of Eretz Yisrael, the division of Eretz Yisrael, the Rebbe gives a big chidush, a novel answer. And he says that the land of Eretz Yisrael, which means the land which is divided by the 7 nations, that he didn't conquer those 7 nations, that land cannot be given to the Levi'im. When the Torah says that the Levi'im do not have a chelik in Eretz Yisrael, it's referring to the land of the 7 nations. But when Moshiach comes, Hashem promises us 3 new lands, in Ever Yarden, Keni, Knisi, and Kadmoini. And these lands were promised to Avram Avinu. And Rashi brings down that it was promised to Avram, and it's going to be given to him in the times of Moshiach. In those lands, that's where the chelik of the Levi'im will be. Those lands, there was never an Isser to give it to the Levi. It just wasn't practical because Yidden did not conquer those lands. But when Moshiach comes, and we will conquer those lands, therefore the Levi'im will have a portion in those lands. So that answers the halachic aspect. But now we have a more philosophical question. And that is, there's a reason why the Torah did not want the Levi'im to have a portion in Eretz Yisrael. They wanted that, the Torah wants that the Levi'im should be totally dedicated to Hashem. Totally dedicated to Hashem. If so, why should that change when Moshiach comes? On the contrary, if during the time of Beis HaMikdash Rishon, the first and second Beis HaMikdash, the Levi'im were not allowed to have a chelek because they were supposed to be dedicated to Hashem, how much more so when it comes to Yemais HaMoshiach, when everyone is going to be involved with Elikus, everyone's going to want to serve the Eibishter, all the Yidden, even the Goyim are going to want to serve Hashem. Like the Rambam says, the entire world, all they're going to be interested in is to serve Hashem. If this is true, then for sure the Levi'im should not have a chelek in land. They should not have a portion. They shouldn't have to deal with earthly, physical, mundane things. But the Rebbe teaches us the contrary. And he gives a fascinating explanation. And he says as follows. Listen up, very, very interesting. It's only nowadays, in the time of Golus, that the physical world is a contradiction to godliness. Because if we get involved in physicality, the physical world conceals godliness. That's why the world is called Olam. Olam is from the Hebrew word helim, concealment. This physical world conceals godliness. When Mashiach comes, it says, U'mola oretz de'as Hashem k'mayim le'yom mechasim. Hashem will have his dira b'tachtoidim. Hashem's dwelling place will be in this physical world, and the physical world will be engulfed with elikus, with godliness, not just covered over with godliness. It's going to be revealed how the essence of the physical world is godliness. And therefore, no longer will owning land, meaning living in this physical world, be a contradiction to godliness. On the contrary, it only enhances the service of Hashem. Yet, the Levi'im still can only have a portion in the 3 lands, not the 7 lands. In Kabbalah it explains that the 3 lands represent the 3 cerebral parts of the brain, which means the Chachma, Bina, and Das, wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. It's more the aloof service of Hashem with total wisdom, not in total involvement. The 7 lands represent the 7 feelings, emotions, which represent the service of Hashem, which is more connected with something else. When you have an emotion, it's love to something, you hate something, you're involved with that thing, and emotion consumes a person. Intellect is more distance. It's from the side, you're examining something. Emotion means you're getting involved in that thing. So the Levi'im, even though they will have the land, it will be of the three lands. Now, the big question is, how can me and you prepare for this great change that's going to happen when Moshiach comes? So we have to do two things. The first thing is, many of you watching this shir say, what do I have to do with the Levi'im? If I'm not a Levi, so then the shir is not talking to me. So we have to know that the Rambam writes regarding the fact that Hashem takes care of the Levi'im. The Rambam finishes off the halachas of nachla, of inheritance, and he says, V'loi shevet Levi bilvad. It's not just shevet Levi. Ela kol Yisrael shenod v'ruchai. Any Yid that desires to give himself over to the service of Hashem, like a Levi, so he has, so to speak, the status of Levi. Hashem hu nachalosai. Hashem is his inheritance. So therefore, the way to prepare ourselves for this tremendous, drastic change in the world, that the whole world will be engulfed with Kedusha, is by starting to do that nowadays, getting ourselves dedicated to Hashem in a complete fashion. And very important, the way to prepare ourselves is by realizing that the Levi'im are going to have their portion in the three lands. What does that mean for us? There are certain parts of the Torah which are represented in the seven lands, which represent more the revealed parts of Torah, or even the Hasidic parts of Torah, which deal more with the emotions. The three lands of Keni, Krizi, and Kadmoni, that is represented in Torah by Chassidus Chabad, learning the deep Maimorim, intellectual Maimorim, which stimulate the mind and enables your mind to grasp godliness. And this is our avodah today. We're coming also from Yutas Kislev Rosh Hashanah L'Chassidus. We have to dedicate ourselves completely, totally involved in the learning of Chassidus in a way of Chabad, in Chachma, Bina, and Das. And by doing that in a real fashion, we will merit to this time when Hashem will expand Eretz Yisrael, like the pasuk says, Ki yarchiv Hashem aleikecha es gavucha, and He's going to expand Eretz Yisrael and conquer the three lands and give the Levi'im a part in there and expand Eretz Yisrael and allow us all to serve Him in a way of Levi, that the whole world will serve Hashem. Now again, I want to remind each and every one of you that you've all watched this year till the end, and I appreciate that, and I hope you enjoyed it. But if you enjoyed this year, you'd probably also enjoy watching the previous shiurim. You can go watch the previous shiurim by going to youtube.com and typing in the one word, Moshiach Weekly, and you will see a bunch of the previous shiurim come up. Feel free to watch them, share them, and tell your friends about it. And again, if anyone has any comments or critique or ideas, feel free to email the shir at Yeshivas Lubavitch@gmail.com. And if anyone wants to sponsor the shir and Lili Nishmas or Lischus, or for whatever good reason to help the cause, again, you can email me at yeshivaslubavitch@gmail.com. Once again, I wish you and your family a Freilich and Yom Tov. Thank you for traveling with us on the journey to redemption. Looking forward to seeing you and your family in the third Beis Hamikdash in Yerushalayim, Yer HaKodesh. May it be Tekef Umiyad Mamish.